So anyway, I felt that calling and I didn't know what to do with that. I felt like, and so if you're out there and you have a calling, but you don't know exactly where it's going, trust me, God has a plan and he will lead you there, even if you're clueless like I was.
Welcome to the In Pursuit Of podcast, brought to you by CBHN, the Christian Business Harvest Network. These episodes highlight and celebrate those who are passionately pursuing their God-given purposes, leaning into our faith to rise and challenge the boundaries of possibilities.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of In Pursuit Of. We're here today with Rob Patz. When you hear what he's crazy enough to do and jump out of the boat while other people are chilling in their cabins because the waves are a little rocky, he's like, waves? What waves? Let's go, because God's more comfortable out there than he is chilling in our boats. That's why I'm so excited to introduce to our audience today, Rob Patz. Not only is he the founder of Abundant TV, but there's so much more to him. Rob, thanks for hanging out and joining us today.
Hey, sir, it is so good to be here with you. I am so honored. Big fan of what you're doing. Love what you're doing. Love the show.
And here we are.
Yes.
And so you're, folks, this is why I want to have Rob on. A growth mindset, not only because his mindset is that way, but why is God chasing him down with the type of fruit that all of us want to experience in our lives? We're talking about like almost doubling in a matter of months. That's not normal, but that.
And to give some context for those that have not followed our story as far as Abundant TV, we started May of 2022, May 5th of 2022, no viewers, nothing. My wife and I launched the network, and it was like, I had no idea. Now, my background, for those of you that don't know, my background is television and radio. I've spent the last 24 years of my life working in Christian ministry and media and, radio, all kinds of stuff. But I'd never done anything like this where we launched something completely new.
Let's rewind even before May 5th, 2022. Let's go back, right? Because right now you're in the Ohio area. But before that, you were in the Washington State area. And it's like, well, wait a second. You can't do this until you do that. Why did God have, if it's technology based, why God have to move you from Seattle to Ohio? Why? It's technology. You didn't have to. But what was the connection to that act of obedience so then God released what he had for you?
Oh, it's a neat story. Go back to, my dad was a pastor. Grew up in a pastor's home. Real quick, I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version, and if you're
Okay.
young, Google that, and so you'll learn what Reader's Digest versions of stories are. It is the very condensed version. So I grew up in Minnesota until I was 10. My dad moved to Washington, took his family, took my mom and I'm an only child, to Washington so he could work on his master's. Went there. My mom and dad fell in love with Washington, with the city of Seattle and that area. And when I was 13, my dad was pastoring a church, and I felt the call to ministry and to media, and I didn't understand what that meant. I thought, since my dad was a pastor and he was on radio, in fact, my dad was on 119 radio stations throughout the United States.
Oh, is that all? Is that
it was just a few.
119?
And
Wow.
he reminded me, because if I would get the wrong number, he would remind me it was 119. It was 118. It was 117. It was 119. And so I grew up around that. I started when I was 5 years old, going to the studio with him when he'd go to the radio station to record. So anyway, I felt that calling and I didn't know what to do with that. I felt like, and so if you're out there and you have a calling, but you don't know exactly where it's going, trust me, God has a plan and he will lead you there, even if you're clueless like I was. I was 13 and clueless. So I decided I'd go to Bible school. And I did. I'm the shortest alumni of a very well-known university, Christian university. I went there one day. God went, no, this is not. Oh yeah, it's serious. Oh yes. I went there one day and God literally did not let me sleep all night. I didn't sleep at all. Woke up in the morning. My parents had moved me into an apartment on campus, and I called my mom and I said, I got to come home. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And she was like, are you sure? And then she said, call your dad, because that, And so I called my dad and I explained to him, and he says, listen, we'll be up and we'll be there in a couple hours. We'll pick up all your stuff and you can come home.
Come to CBHN every Thursday at 7 p.m. and you will see the amazing promises of God that He has for your life come to pass.
Well done. A Passionate Pursuit of Purpose is now available. This book was written so you don't have to leave your eternity to chance. It's for someone who is a little restless and simply looking for their next move, but doesn't know where to begin. If you feel like there is still more in your core to explore, and you want to experience the fullness of what was deposited within your DNA, then well done. A Passionate Pursuit of Purpose could be the very tool you need to send you in the direction of your destiny. Available now on Amazon and welldonebook.info. That's welldonebook.info.
When you're talking about a man of God that was on, we can celebrate the 119 radio stations, but what was yelling louder than the 119 was the grace with which he approached you and said, hey, you know what? I'm here for you. Don't worry about the sunk cost. I'm here for you. What was that like for your soul to know that your parents were there to make you whole?
It was always one of the greatest things in life is to know that your mom and dad were being, a lot of people say, well, it's because you were an only child. I don't think that would have been the case if there had been multiple siblings, but my parents were very supportive in everything that I have done. We'll have to do a show sometime and talk about my eyesight and all that they did, because that's a whole show in itself. But it's cool how they never held me back, even though I have a problem with my vision. They were always supportive. And I think by that point, I'd grown enough understanding from my parents, being the age I was, that if they knew when I said, listen, God kept me up all night, this is not where He wants me, that my dad went, okay, he's legitimately, this is not, because my girlfriend was there. So they knew it wasn't the fact that, because then I could see her every day. And it was, so they knew it wasn't like I was missing anybody or anything like that. It was more, and it was really serious. They moved me home. I went to lunch with my mom and my aunt, and my aunt said, hey, the radio station where your dad records, they're looking for somebody. And I thought, why not? Let's give this a shot.
Just before we go there, just before how that progresses out to where you are today, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we're in conversation with Rob Patz, founder of Abundant TV, launched March 5th, 2022. But there's so much more here that we want to unpack, because it's not like you set out to launch a radio station or a television station or anything. This is, I'm gonna venture a guess. When we get back from break, I want to see if we can unpack this a little bit. You grew up with a father who had a heart to reach as many people as possible with the saving knowledge of who Christ can be, to the point where the natural interpretation of that, let me also get into ministry in some way, shape, and form. But yet, God now has a way for you to reach more people than you ever would have behind the pulpit as a pastor.
Thanks for joining us on the In Pursuit Of podcast. Definitely follow us on our socials and consider this your personal invitation to join our Thursday night CBHN Zoom calls at 7 p.m. EST, as we challenge each other to pursue the fullness of what God has for our lives. And remember, Matthew 7:7 says, seek and you'll find. We pray you too will walk in the fullness of your purposes.